Well, here we go.
Here we go.
Big Ten Conference, final week of the season. Wisconsin over Minnesota. Iowa over Nebraska. Sorry.
Why?
Well, they're playing in Iowa
Why?
City.
Oh, my gosh, Wisconsin.
Indiana over Purdue. Rutgers over Michigan State. Northwestern over Illinois. Penn State over Maryland. UCLA over Fresno State. Ohio State over Michigan. Suck it, Michigan. Oregon over Washington. Notre Dame over USC. And the final standings in the Big Ten Conference, we have a three-way tie.
I knew it. Do you remember who beat whom in this scenario? You had Oregon beating Ohio State.
Well, everyone beat everybody. Oregon beat Ohio State. Ohio State beat Penn State. No, I'm sorry. Penn State doesn't play Oregon. Who did I have Penn State? Oh, I had Penn State losing to Ohio State.
Okay, so Oregon beat Ohio State.
And Oregon lost to, who did I have Oregon losing
You had
to?
them, it was an upset game.
Yes.
Was it Wisconsin? Did you have them losing in Madison?
No, Michigan. Michigan.
That's right, yeah.
At Michigan.
Well, then they would go, and then this is actually then fairly easy. Ohio State beat Penn State, so Ohio State would go.
Yeah, but it's a three-way tie.
But if Oregon didn't lose to either of those teams, they
yeah,
would
but Oregon didn't play Penn State.
Yeah, but thus they didn't lose to Penn State.
But you can't see that's the. We'll get to this in a minute. We'll get to this in a minute. It's not a soapbox.
Can we talk about Wisconsin being 4-8? That's pretty fun.
Yeah, the mega simulate. I did not realize this until it was done, but Wisconsin went 4-8.
That's pretty funny.
Along with 5 other teams.
Let's talk about Nebraska for a moment. 8-4. Back to the bowl game. Wow, that's cool.
With a 5-4 conference, so
that's a little less cool, but still cool.
A robust 9th place finish in the league, all by themselves. They're the first team that's not tied.
Wow. Wow.
All right, stick a pin in that.
Oh, the pin has been stuck.
To the ACC. Georgia over Georgia Tech, BC over Pitt, Clemson over South Carolina, Florida State over Florida, SMU over Cal, Miami over Syracuse, Kentucky beats Louisville, UNC over NC State, Virginia Tech over Virginia, Duke over Wake, and Stanford, San Jose State. Who cares?
Oh, wow.
We have a 3-way tie in the ACC.
What? I know what you're doing here.
Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Louisville. Again, I was not paying attention to this.
Yep.
You can wink all you want.
The wink boys.
But you also have a 3-way tie for it'd be 4th place. 6-2, SMU, North Carolina, and Clemson.
Yeah, you'll be in dead place. Congrats to SMU. What a nice first season for them in the ACC.
Good first season.
Yeah.
SMU is a pretty manageable schedule. Big 12, Utah wins it all, even though they get upset by UCF.
What? Wait, real quick. They're playing UCF in the last week of the season?
Yes, they are.
Why? Why isn't the Holy
Because they're
War?
conference rivals.
No. Why isn't the Holy War the last week of the season?
Don't ask me.
That's schedule.
That's when they play BYU.
Yes,
Holy War.
I figured.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Mormons.
UCF over Utah, Okie State over Colorado, Kansas over Baylor, BYU over Houston, Iowa State beats K-State, West Virginia over Texas Tech, Arizona beats Arizona State, TCU over Cincinnati.
Arizona.
Utah wins the league, but we've got a 4-way tie for second.
Of course we do. What a surprise.
A lot of ties.
I'm stunned by all of this.
Also,
We're going,
Houston.
listen,
Woof.
we're going to see ties.
I know we are.
We are going to see ties.
I know we are.
Bow ties, bolo ties, regular
We're going to
ties.
have more ties than you can shake a stick at, and the SEC.
Is there a tie near the top? Oh, there is. Who could have seen that coming?
Ole Miss over Mississippi State, Georgia over Georgia Tech, Clemson over South Carolina, FSU over Florida, LSU over Oklahoma, Mizzou over Arkansas, Texas beats Texas A&M, Alabama over Auburn in a rather inconsequential Iron Bowl.
Oh, bummer.
With both Alabama and Auburn going 8-4. Kentucky over Louisville and Tennessee over Vandy.
Look at the Horns. They're the only undefeated team in this whole exercise, right?
Yes, they are. I told you I'm not showing any bias.
This is no. You snuck this in there.
No,
did
did
not.
not.
See, look at me. Unbiased.
Did not sneak this in.
Unbiased.
Did
John.
not sneak this in.
Yes!
According to the mega simulation, they are.
Thank God I was listening to the radio that day. That was awesome.
I'm so glad I could go and grab that call.
So where does this leave us? I mean,
with a lot of ties.
Honestly, we can skip this page. Let's just look at what we would be dealing with.
Yeah, Josh D'Lo says, this is so good. Even in a simulation, no one has an effing clue who goes to Indy.
But you got Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. And again, How are you going to break that tie? More on that in a minute.
Moron.
Florida State, Virginia Tech, Louisville. How are you going to break that tie? Utah's in. So is Texas.
Because, yeah, they're better.
But you got a
records.
4-way tie in the Big 12 and a 2-way tie in the SEC with Ole Miss and Tennessee not playing each other.
It's funny because I thought the Big Ten one was like an easy peasy lemon squeezy where Oregon beat Ohio State, so they get the tiebreaker over them. They didn't play Penn State, so thus they get the tiebreaker over them. Ohio State beat Penn State as well, so they get the tiebreaker over them. But I guess you are kind of right, though I think that I would be correct in what the tiebreaker will be. I think it will be what I think it is, and that is...
No, you can't eliminate a team because they didn't play another team.
But I'm just saying that's what I think it will be. Don't get mad at me. I just think that that's what they would
There's
do.
There's no way they could get away with doing that.
What are they going to do? I know. You want to get the soapbox. I know you do.
No, I don't want to get the soapbox.
So what would they do then?
Well, I don't. That's a great question because guess what? We don't have tiebreakers yet.
We know.
What is the date today?
It's August the 2nd.
When's the season start?
3 weeks from tomorrow.
We still don't have. I looked this up.
I know. I just searched it as well.
I looked this up.
Yeah, we don't have them.
None of the 4 major conferences have announced their tie-breaking scenario.
Correct.
It'll probably show up mid-season at some
None
point.
of them.
They've got time.
Now, conveniently enough, Seth Emerson of The Athletic wrote about this today regarding the SEC. He covers the SEC for The Athletic. And as he wrote, the end of divisions, the addition of 2 teams, and remaining at 8 conference games, that adds up to higher chances that tiebreakers will be necessary to decide who plays in the SEC championship. What those tiebreakers will be, however, remains undecided, potentially not released publicly until the eve of the regular season. But SEC administrators have been working on the plan for a while, going through chaotic scenarios to try to get the fairest plan. So,
I just realized you didn't open the brackets, but you closed the brackets on the graphic today. That was funny.
Huh?
You put the parentheses at the end, but you never opened them. So you closed the parentheses, but you never had the first parentheses.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
You're distracting from the real story, and that is, what are they going to do? So Seth Emerson did speak with folks inside the SEC. Here's what won't be used as tiebreakers, at least in the SEC.
Okay.
One of the popular theories is, well,
Playoff
if we have a
rankings?
situation like Oregon, like the scenario I've got with Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State is, well, you just use the playoff rankings.
They say they're not going to do
The
that.
SEC will not. Well, here's the reason why. The SEC will not use the college football
Because it
playoff
puts
rankings
pressure on them.
because that ranking comes out Tuesday night, and the SEC needs to know its championship team Sunday morning.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Yeah, plus, I don't like the idea of putting pressure on the committee that they're choosing who the conference championship game is between.
Correct.
Remember the Big 12 South, they used that in their tie-breaking scenario for the Big 12 championship all the way back in 2008.
They will also not use any of the AP or coaches polls, but said some computer formulas are being considered, but that would be very low on the priority list. Margin of victory and points scored. So, in some leagues, I believe the soccer leagues.
Soccer, they do goal
they use
differential.
Goal differential.
Yeah.
They won't do that, says the SEC.
Good. I like that because, and not that I'm going to cry because a team got blown out by 60, but I like that they're not going to just have teams running up the score just because.
The desire is to make the process purely about wins and losses in conference games, and in the end, that will be fairly similar to the tiebreakers used in the era of divisions. He also writes, the SEC has used past seasons games they've used past seasons
to try to figure out what it would be.
To look at possible scenarios. It has seen scenarios that would have 4 team ties for first or second place. And of course, if all tiebreakers fail, a coin flip or blind draw is likely to be used.
Hell yeah.
But so at least in the SEC's eyes, they want to try to keep the tiebreakers as similar to what they have always been without getting, dare I say, too cute. But that brings into question then, it's easy to have tiebreakers in a division
because you have head-to-head.
because everybody plays everybody else in the division.
So you know what it'll be? Because I think again, and you can get mad at me, but I think that it will be head-to-head, and if they don't have it, they will then go to probably common opponents. I think.
Well, yeah, that I don't disagree with that.
But in the Big Ten scenario,
but they're not going to punish like Penn State. They're not going to punish Penn State because they didn't play Oregon.
Maybe. Why?
There's no tiebreaker that has ever
John,
existed that would do that.
You are going to put faith in these institutions that they won't do something that you find dumb?
What?
No, but you can't say that I'm wrong for thinking that and then also get to have you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either I'm right because they'll do something stupid or I'm wrong.
But I like your thought process.
But seriously, Jordan says it would probably be Oregon and Ohio State. Oregon is 1-0 versus the other two. Ohio State is 1-1 and Penn State is 0-1. I think that's what they would do.
And
one team is perfect, one team is 50-50, the other is 0 for whatever.
And so let's pretend that you're right.
Mm-hmm.
What's the reaction going to be to that?
I wouldn't that doesn't bother me. Oregon beat Ohio State. Ohio State beat Penn State. It makes sense.
But no, it does. No, that makes no sense.
Well, okay, John, you are trying to find something that makes perfect sense for a scenario where there is nothing perfect about it. So that is.
I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for sense.
Okay, so
sense doesn't always have to be perfect.
Well, then
there's no sense. There's no sense. You can't punish it if you're gonna. You can't punish a team for not playing another. You would have to use
common opponents.
Common opponents.
That's fine. They can go with common opponents.
But in a scenario like this, where again, every team's got one loss and the teams are to the other teams, again, how in the world do you determine?
Probably like this.
And if they do, there's going to be.
I don't think there would be that crazy of a reaction.
Yes, there will.
From you, I know, but
from a lot of people.
You think a lot of people would be like, Oregon beat Ohio State, so of course they should get in. Penn State lost to the one other team in the scenario, they should probably get out. I feel like people would be like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
But why should Ohio State get in? Because they lost to one of those teams.
Because they beat Penn State.
But Penn State never got that chance to beat Oregon.
But they lost to Ohio State.
Oregon never had to play Penn State.
But they lost to Ohio State. That's what the argument would be.
And that's a bad argument, in my opinion, because you can't effectively break a tie if the teams didn't play each other, and you're still using that as your guide for determining how the tie is broken.
Maybe. I wouldn't put it past them.
Now you're starting to sound like me.
No, but I actually don't. I think that is actually fine with those three teams because, like, what else are you going to do? Because you can say common opponents, but what if they only play two common opponents? No, I know they don't.
See, this is honestly the reason why these conferences, I think some of them are playing a game of chicken too.
Oh, 100%.
Because I guarantee if the Big Ten came out with theirs today, and you know what people are going to do. They're going to go through and they're going to try to nitpick every scenario. And then they're going to find something wrong, and the Big Ten's going to be, damn it, we didn't think about that.
And then the SEC will be like, we're not going to do what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think whatever you do, I do not think you can use the playoff standings. I think that is stupid and silly, and I didn't even think of the calendar point of it all. The playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. All right, so you can't do that one. Oh, I don't remember what one of the other scenarios that you just gave me, but you know, I think that was good to not use that. Oh, it was margin of victory. Finding common opponents, I mean, that's what they do in the NFL, right? Like, beyond tiebreakers, when you're looking at seeding, it starts getting into strength of schedule or common opponents and those types of things.
You're almost going to need to create some kind of a formula that factor, like, not an RPI or a net ranking.
You're talking about like a common opponent record plus strength of schedule, and it's like a math problem? Yeah. Probably.
You're almost going to have to. In some of these cases.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like, look, I know that I've been giving you grief for it all week long, but you are not wrong in that at least multiple conferences are going to have to use this for the top of their standings. Will it be all four? I don't know if I go that far just because I don't know. Would it surprise me? Of course not. You know, with this many teams, when you have 18 in one league, what is it? So it's 18, 16, 16,
17.
17. So it's 18, 17, 16, 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course you're going to have some goofiness. You know, and every time we do 24 teams in 25 grums, we talk about, oh, this team gets to avoid X, Y, and Z. You know, let's say they're not going to, but let's say Rutgers was in the mix. They would have no games against Oregon, no games against Ohio State, no games against Michigan. And who am I forgetting? Ohio State, Michigan. Oh, and Penn State. They'd get to avoid all four. let's pretend that they're in the mix. They don't have any of the big dogs, but meanwhile, the big dogs are all playing each other because of television.
Yeah.
So
now let's throw in the scenario of, let's say, this weird tiebreaker that would gift Oregon and Ohio State the bid to go to the playoff, while Penn State sits at home, or not playoff, but goes to the championship. But Penn State sits at home.
Well, then congrats to Penn State. They're going to the playoff.
Because Penn State will have one fewer game.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be 11-1.
And one fewer loss, and and let's say that conference championship goes sideways.
Well, here, let me go.
Especially if Oregon beats Ohio State, because in my scenario, Oregon beat Ohio State already. Let's say they beat them for a second time.
Yeah, so I just threw up the ACC graphic again, because one thing that stood out to me was at the top of the ACC, you have 11-1 and 7-1 in conference, 11-1 and 7-1 in conference, 9-3 but 7-1 in conference. Now, if Louisville, by the way, was the 9-3 team. If they get into the conference championship game, they're obviously playing for their playoff lives. They cannot lose because they wouldn't get in at 9-4. If they're on the outside looking in, they are probably also screwed, because a 9-3 team, meanwhile, if Virginia Tech or Florida State is the 11-1 team hanging out, they're feeling a whole lot better. And certainly the ACC, most likely, I guess I can't say certainly and most likely, I am mostly certain that the ACC will not get 3 teams in this year. So Louisville would really need the tiebreaker to work for them, so then they could get into the championship game and potentially win. Because if they're the ones that are on the outside looking in, they are not going to get the benefit of the doubt as a 3-loss team, because they're not even on the graphic that you have right now.
Right.
It's undefeated, 11-1 and 10-2. They would be on the outside.
The whole purpose of doing this was just to see, okay, what's the possibilities of, what's the playoff conversation going to look like? So forget about the conference championship. It'll
be a tire fire.
Let's just throw that aside for a moment. Look at this pool of potential playoff teams. Now, remember, you've got 7 at-large teams. You have 7, because 5 teams are getting in automatically because they're conference champions. 7 at-large teams. If this scenario worked out, well, you've got 6 one-loss teams who theoretically might not be conference champions.
Well, certainly Notre Dame is not, and they're
right.
in automatically, but yeah.
But yeah,
Penn State or Ohio
more
State.
10-2 teams.
Yeah.
The conclusion, and again, this is just one of a bazillion possible scenarios that could play out this season. The potential this year, remember one of the arguments against moving away from 4 was that, well, is it really going to create more conversation?
Yes, I do. This would create plenty of conversation.
Even if the odds that we're going to have a lot of conversation.
John, the number of teams that you have on this single graphic is 16. And that's not even counting the group of 5. So you have 16, and that's not counting Louisville, who again would...
Well, that's 16 for 15, or I'm sorry, 16 12. For 11 spots.
For 11 spots, yeah. It's 16 for 11, and that's not again counting Louisville, who tiebreaker-wise might get into the ACC championship game. So let's say 17. 17, and some get an opportunity the next week to play for their lives.
Right.
Some don't.
Right.
And some are, I mean, God, the politicking that week. Because now you're going to have an extra week of politicking, because teams that aren't in the conference championship game that are hoping to get in or hoping to host a playoff game aren't going to shut up all week long. Hell, we might be able to get someone on our radio. We could get Mike Norvell on our show because he'd be politicking. You know, we might even have that. Hey, Kirk Ferentz, you want to come on our show and argue that Iowa should be in the playoffs? Sure. We'll welcome you on. You're right. It's going to, in an era where it seems like there might be fewer arguments, this would say.
I think there's going to be more arguments.
That's fun. I like arguing.
There's going to be more arguments, especially when...
Even me.
You know what would be even funnier is when these leagues are so scared of announcing their tiebreakers, they won't even do it until the end of the season. Yeah. You see
Actually, you know what? That sounds kind of funny. We wake up on Sunday and we find out who's playing in the conference championship game. We find out live, conference tiebreakers, and thus we're like, okay, so what does that mean?
That could be fun.
It's like Nebraska's playing Ohio State. Like, oh, wow, that'll be fun. Rematch,
I was legitimately disappointed that I couldn't find a tiebreaker out there, because I wanted to actually say, okay, and in this scenario, here's the teams that would play.
Yeah.
Just so we could then play out the following week and see exactly which teams are in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
it's not out there.
And it's not out there. None of the conferences have announced their tie-breaking scenarios as of August the 2nd.
Yep.
None of them.
If you search tiebreakers, it's just a bunch of articles about like, yeah, we figure we'll probably be getting them pretty soon, huh?
Tiebreakers? Yep, probably.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
have fun. And there it is, the mega simulation.
What a fun exercise that was this week.
Now let's see how it actually plays out in real life.
Wow.
You know what'll happen? Something stupid will happen, and everything will be really boring. And everything will just play out really.
Will be the best
nice.
2 teams in each league playing in the conference championship
Well, not
game.
necessarily that,
And you'll
but
be like, damn it.
It'll be just clean enough.
Damn it.
Damn it. Oh, damn it.
That's what you'll say.